I was drawn to all the wrong things. I liked to drink. I was lazy. I didn't have a god, politics, ideas, ideals. I was settled into nothingness, a kind of non-being, and I accepted a lot. I didn't make for an interesting person. I didn't want to be interesting. It was too hard. What I really wanted was only a soft, hazy space to live in and to be left alone. On the other hand, when I got drunk, I screamed, went crazy, got all out of hand. One kind of behavior didn't fit the other. I didn't care. Charles Bukowski, why are we here? That question doesn't just pop up in late-night dorm room debates or midlife crises. It's the heartbeat of philosophy, the engine behind science, the whisper that lingers behind every quiet moment. It's the question that shadows us from childhood bedtime thoughts to the silence before sleep decades later. For some, it sparks a quest. For others, it opens a void. I remember drifting through life, a sleepwalker in my own story. I clung to things that dulled my senses: alcohol, apathy, avoidance. I wasn't seeking answers. I didn't even care to ask the questions. I just wanted silence, not peace, just silence. A hazy, muffled world where I could dissolve without conflict. But that same numbness often erupted into chaos, shouting, self-destruction, wildness. Two lives at war under one skin. And yet, even amid the numb routine or the violent outbursts, that ancient question clawed its way back. Why am I here? Not just me, but all of us. 7 billion lives spinning on a rock in space, breathing, dying, hoping. Is there a point to any of it? Or are we just trying to survive long enough to distract ourselves from the meaninglessness? Science has mapped out our origin stories. The Big Bang, evolution, quantum particles dancing in the dark. But these answers often feel like technical manuals, not emotional resolutions. We know how we got here, but why still echoes unanswered? Religion once stood in that gap. For centuries, it offered certainty, purpose, an invisible architecture behind the visible world. But as belief splintered and doubt spread, that clarity blurred. And in that fog, nihilism emerged, not as a philosophy people cheered for, but as a quiet scream. The word comes from the Latin nihil, meaning nothing. It was first named by Friedrich Jacobi, who used it not to promote the idea, but to warn against it. Yet the idea found its home in modern thought. Nihilism suggests something deeply unsettling, that life has no intrinsic meaning, that our purpose, our morality, our entire belief systems are human inventions, stories we tell ourselves so we can sleep at night. Under this view, we are not divine beings with sacred destinies. We are accidents, chaos in human form. The cosmos didn't plan us. It won't miss us. Writer Cormac McCarthy once said, "The point is, there is no point." Nihilists echo this. To them, humans aren't at the center of the universe. We're a passing flicker in an endless, indifferent expanse. Imagine standing at the edge of a canyon that stretches beyond the horizon. Beautiful, terrifying, and utterly indifferent to your presence. Even our bodies betray this insignificance. As Joseph Heller grimly noted, a man is matter that was Snowden's secret, a fragile form destined to rot like everything else. Once the spirit departs, the body becomes waste, brutal, honest, stripped of romance. But nihilism is not just an idea. It became a movement. In 19th century Russia, it transformed into rebellion. Young radicals, disillusioned by monarchy, church, and family, embraced nihilism as a battle cry. They believed destruction was a path to renewal. The anarchist Mikhail Bakunin famously said, "The passion for destruction is a creative passion." In their eyes, burning down old institutions was the only way to free humanity. However, the word nihilist soon became synonymous with chaos, with bombs, with blood. To be called one was to be accused of being part of secret societies, plotting assassinations. Yet not all nihilists wanted to destroy. They just wanted to know what could stand once all the lies fell away. Later, Friedrich Nietzsche sharpened the concept with his haunting declaration, "God is dead." He didn't mean it literally. He meant that belief in God, the cultural structure, the moral compass, was eroding. Religion once stitched meaning into our lives. But science, modernity, and skepticism were pulling out those threads. Nietzsche didn't rejoice in this loss. In fact, he feared what would follow, a moral vacuum. Without the structure of faith, where would people anchor themselves? He feared not chaos, but apathy, a culture adrift in its own emptiness. For Nietzsche, nihilism wasn't a destination, but a bridge, a crossing point from old beliefs to a new selfhood. He believed humans could evolve into something greater. He called this ideal the Übermensch, the overhuman, a being who forges values from within, not from inherited dogma. Ironically, Nietzsche believed that Christianity, with its emphasis on truth, had sown the seeds of its own demise. The pursuit of truth led to the questioning of faith and eventually to its unraveling. So where does that leave us? On the edge of a philosophical cliff, peering down into the abyss, wondering what lies beyond meaning, beyond morality, beyond belief. That's where we'll continue. Standing at the edge of nihilism, many feel the pull of despair. If nothing means anything, why bother with love, art, or kindness? If the universe doesn't care, why should we? This is the haunting gravity of nihilism. It threatens to hollow out our lives from within, whispering that all efforts are ultimately futile. But here's where the narrative begins to shift. Not all philosophers gave in to the darkness. Some saw nihilism not as the end, but as the beginning of something new. Take Albert Camus, for example. He acknowledged the absurdity of life, the mismatch between our deep desire for meaning and the universe's cold silence. But instead of surrendering, he posed a radical idea: defiance. In his essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus reimagines the condemned figure endlessly pushing a boulder up a hill, only to watch it roll back down. For most, this is torture. But Camus dares to say, we must imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because in choosing to continue, to resist despair, to engage in life even when it offers no answers, Sisyphus becomes heroic. He becomes free. This perspective cracks open a new path through nihilism, one of courage, responsibility, and conscious creation. If nothing has inherent meaning, then we are free to create it. Our values aren't handed to us, they are forged, tested, lived. We stop asking for the universe's permission to matter. We simply choose to matter. This is not blind optimism, it's rebellion. It's the quiet revolution of showing up every day, doing your work, loving deeply, laughing loudly, even as the void yawns in the distance. It's creating beauty not because it will last, but because we can. Camus wasn't alone in this thought. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote Man's Search for Meaning after enduring the horrors of concentration camps. He observed that the people who survived were not always the strongest, but often those who could hold on to a sense of purpose. Even in the worst circumstances, he wrote, life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. Frankl's message is simple, yet profound. Suffering is unavoidable, but we can choose how to respond. Between stimulus and response, he says, lies our greatest human power, choice. This reframes nihilism from an emotional dead end to a call to action. Instead of asking, what's the point? We ask, what meaning can I build here? And many have answered, some through art, sculpting grief into music, painting hope in colors that didn't exist before. Others through service, turning pain into fuel to help others find their way. Some by building families, businesses, communities, not because any of it is eternal, but because it matters now. Philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once said, man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. In a world stripped of cosmic purpose, we become the authors of our existence. This freedom is both a burden and a gift. There's no script, but there are infinite pages waiting to be written. Still, the temptation to fall back into despair never fully disappears. There will be nights when the silence feels too loud, when the weight of meaninglessness crushes the breath out of your chest. But even in those moments, you can return to a simple truth. You are here. You are alive. And that alone is enough to begin. You can choose to care, to create, to connect. And every choice you make becomes a brushstroke in the painting of your life. No, it won't hang in a cosmic museum. But someone might see it. Someone might be changed by it. And in that ripple, your defiance becomes a seed for someone else's hope. So, why are we here? Maybe it doesn't matter what the answer is. Maybe the better question is, what will we do now that we're here? That's the heart of the human journey. Not certainty, but courage. Not eternal meaning, but the will to make this fleeting moment count. And in that quiet rebellion, in that simple act of choosing to care in a universe that doesn't, there lies a beauty no nihilist can erase.